standing up.
Right here?
And Zai is stepped away for a second. Okay, so while Zai is over there, I'm going to get us started. Everyone should be on the homepage right now. Let's see. Pre-game stuff. Recording is started. Remember to go over your archetype triggers. We're actually going to do that at the end of the game, kind of, and do a pre-game question. Good to know, so I don't forget. Right. So, everyone should be able to go to the journal tab and open up their character. I filled out the archetype section for, I think, I got every person's characters. Did I get Reverend Byrne? Pretty sure I did. Yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
All right. So, can everybody look at the archetype section of their character sheet and let me know that what I have there feels appropriate for where your character, for how you're envisioning your character. And I'm going to go ahead and review my own while I'm at it.
It might just be me, but our normal player is not supposed to be seeing a map right now.
I have you on the home page, which isn't a map, but it's our page with all the sticky notes on it. If you're not seeing it, maybe try refreshing.
Okay, I'll try again.
Okay. Adora, would you mind being on clock watching duty today and making sure that we keep everything moving at a good pace?
Okay. What times do I need to say something?
Yep, so if you look at Journal tab handouts, I have a handout at the top called Chapter 1 Pacing that should be available to just you, me, and Zai. And we've got 4 bullet points we're trying to reach in this first game, and I've got, where we're trying to be at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and then we're going to do our wrap-up starting around 4.
Okay.
Did I ever make a pregame questions thing? I thought I did. Factions, plot lines, backgrounds, and profession. Maybe I never did make a pregame questions list. Well, in that case, I'm going to skip it for today and get things started, I think. Aeneas, is Zai still cleaning something up?
Yeah, he's almost done.
Okay, then, let's see. Okay, so I'm moving us to the system map, not the combat one. I'm actually going to get rid of that combat one. I'll hold on to it. Okay, system map. So this has our home base and all of our characters and stuff that we've assembled. So we all gathered. Everybody who was present in the first campaign gathered for... Oh my god, Aeneas, what was your character's name? Evelyn.
Paprika. Or Evelyn.
Evelyn's funeral. We all gathered for Evelyn's funeral. And then we had our... after the funeral, everyone had drinks, and then the wombats ended up getting into a drunken brawl with some of the new people, and that's how we had our space skirmish, which was our last game. So now things are winding down a little bit. We have... Just checking my notes here. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to do a refresher on kind of the circumstance and how we got where we are before events really kick off. So we're currently on the Gemini 3, third rebuild version of the ship from the first campaign. The Gemini 3 and everybody who came to this reunion are all located in the heart of this deep, dense, mysterious nebula in a fairly uncrowded corner of space. This nebula is known as a... this is a place that, like, pirates and bandits and smugglers and stuff will sometimes hide out in here because it is very large and exceptionally hard to find anything if you don't know exactly where you're going. You kind of need to have a pre-made map in order to navigate this nebula. So you guys are hiding out in there so that you can have this reunion without being bothered by any of the major armies that are currently having this huge galaxy-wide war. Let's see. Some things we've established about this nebula, other than being impossible to get signals in or out of it, we've also established that there are some sort of space monsters that exist in this area. We hypothesized that maybe they were kind of like primal bestial versions of the Nova or something, but these are entities that exist natively in space. They don't need atmosphere or anything, and they will kind of swim through the void of this nebula and attack any travelers that they see. You guys have managed to avoid all of them so far, but there's always the possibility that one of them could show up and somebody would have to be sent out to deal with it. Oh, the other thing... Zai, you're back?
Yeah, I'm back.
How do you want to introduce the idea of the refugees?
The refugees currently on the ship?
Yeah.
Are they refugees yet?
I thought that we had discussed that somehow there was a significant amount of refugees on this ship who had been picked up by somebody as they were fleeing a planetary invasion and are kind of waiting to be dropped off somewhere. Do you still want to go with that, or do you want to avoid that?
One second sidebar.
Sure. Sidebar. Sidebar. Hello, Zai. Your mic is muted. in Discord, if that makes a difference. If you're talking, I cannot hear you because of mentioned mic and muting. Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I'm using two computers, and I was like on my computer that didn't have the headset connected, and was like, why can I not hear? Okay. So the people that are on that ship right now, I think that it's cool for some of them to be like from a planet that was just invaded, but I don't think they're like refugees in earnest yet. They are mainly civilians being transported. They will become refugees after what happens in the nebula and after we get to the planet.
Okay, so we do have some civilians that we're transporting.
Yes, we do have some civilians that we're transporting. I think that it's a mix. Some of them could be from refugees, like a refugee type situation.
Okay.
From a planet that was recently invaded, but that's not what they all are. I was thinking more of them being as refugees, civilians that we needed to rescue once we end up smacking into the planet.
Okay, let's hop over to the general tab so that we can discuss with the players kind of where these people came from and then go from there.
Cool.
Hello, we're back. Okay, so Zai and I are discussing there are some non-combatants on this ship.
Yes,
there are some
that's a good word.
Civilians on this ship. And we're trying to come up with why they're there. We don't have a solid thing off the top of our heads.
And I don't think it has to all be one thing.
Yeah,
this is a fairly frequently used like big ship, so there could be a lot of different strains of people and story going on in the background.
And we've established that this ship does a lot of humanitarian aid across the galaxy for trying to mitigate some of the horrors of this war. So it could just be, there's a handful of people from the last 5 planets that they visited who are either just catching a ride to another planet, or they are, fleeing persecution or whatever. The important thing is we've got some civilians on board, which is going to be important in that, there are non-combatants you'll have to be aware of going forward. So, we've got our ship, we've got our
crying ass little kids and concerned parents and greedy shop owners who are going to lose everything if something goes wrong, but then, end up being good people in the end.
Right.
All kinds of stories.
So we've got all these people on the ship, lots of all the people that you've known in the past, and there is this planet that the ship is kind of in orbit around. It's a single solitary planet at the heart of this nebula. It shouldn't be able to exist. Like as I understand it, this is not a kind of environment that you would find a planet in normally. And it's also worth mentioning, even though there aren't any stars in this nebula, there is just kind of a vague atmospheric glow throughout the whole nebula, just made up of the heat and the friction from the various gases and particles. All right, so I think that covers it. Zai, do you have any... I know we went over how things get started. I'm going back to check our notes to see if we wrote down what exactly the inciting incident here is. Story detail.
I think, and what we're thinking of how to start things, doesn't have to. I don't know if you have to immediately like be like, okay, and then this happened. I think that the players should be like, well, I'll just ask everybody. So after we got out of that, our last session, we finished up that mock battle outside the Galanga, or outside the ship. That's not the name. My bad.
Gemini.
Yeah. Gemini. What do we do? What would you all do? Like, Ruda, I guess we should tell Morgan what he did.
Yeah, fill me in on the details of last game if you all can.
So I'll let Bryn take most of it, but Ruda, you were basically the organizer of this mock battle. So
Okay.
you organized a mock battle between the party
Wombats.
members from the first season, their friends, and the Wombats, the people who we did a mock battle with at the beginning of last season.
Yep. Okay.
And Paprika kicked their asses. I mean, we all did pretty well, but there was basically a combo move that was done. Roy used an ability that made Hyakamaru's made his mech.
The system kind of got fried for a second.
Yeah,
While he
it
was
thought that it was
distracted-
on fire. It thought that it was shutting down or on fire or had some severe damage. Roy made it think that, and then Paprika made it real because she hit it with several missiles, and that was like the first move.
Yeah, it was great.
Mock battle.
Okay.
And it went back and forth. Tide ebbed and flowed. You know, there were some good moves that the Wombats pulled off. There were several good moves that our party pulled off. But at the end of the day, we won the match.
That's fucking badass.
Okay.
Paprika was very much the MVP of the match, and I think that Ruda was very impressed with her, considering that she's only 9 years old.
Yes. 9 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I've figured out where we should start this. So we've got Captain Ilya, who I don't have a sprite for, apparently. Oh yeah, here we go. Yes, I do. And do I have a command deck on here? No, she did not. Oh man, I'm missing a command deck. We'll just use the simulation hall as a command deck because it kind of looks like one. All right. So we've got this command deck here. The hangar. That's not the right word.
I think hangar's the right word, actually.
The place that
this
has
is
all the controls.
the controls of the ship.
Yeah, like the place where you would have
It's the bridge or the bridge or the command deck. Or the hangar would be where after the battle we went and stored our mechs because not just Hyakamaru's, but several of our machines probably need repair.
Yeah, they got banged up. So while we have the ship's mechanics are looking into all of that, I think that some of the I think that the captain and the commander, who are two different people, invited some of the representatives of the different crews on board to come to the command deck where they're going to have a discussion about kind of where everybody is going to go next and what what everyone is planning on doing. It's not like they're issuing commands. It's more like you're going to a business conference and you and a bunch of other executives are going to sit down and talk about what kinds of strategies you're looking at doing for the next year. It's probably not a great example, but so we've got Captain Ilya, the the captain of the Gemini 2. Oh, actually, sorry, Commander Ilya, who is the previous captain of the Gemini 3, and currently is the commander of, she's one of the field generals of the New Dawn?
Mhm.
Order of the New Dawn, I think, is the group we came up with. And then we have Gemini herself, this being here, who is a humanoid cyborg computer entity made up of the artificial intelligence that runs the Gemini ship itself, who is the captain of the ship. We have, let's see. We've got.
If that meeting's going on, did we all like go straight from the hangar to the command deck?
I think we can say that this is a few hours later.
Okay. What would in the meantime, could we ask the players just what do you all think you would have done on this ship that is full of some civilians, that has some like combatants who are doing humanitarian-esque things around the galaxy from this ship? What would you have done in the meantime between going from the hangar to the command deck?
Eating candy and throwing the wrappers all over the place. Also, Bren, I've refreshed like 10, 20 times. I don't see anything. It's just gray for me.
Really?
Zach, how long of a time frame was between these events?
There were a couple hours between moving from the hangar to the command deck, so I would say 3 hours, 3-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. We're definitely got to work out in.
I was also playing a Game Boy.
Okay, so
zoomed all the way out. There's nothing there.
Aeneas, can you try? I don't know, maybe closing your browser window and opening a new one. Maybe try opening it in a different browser.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Only the GM has access to the page toolbar, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Everybody
Is
else...
anybody else seeing a gray screen?
I see the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Okay. You're seeing it. Hold on a second. Adora, what would Reverend Byrne have been doing?
I probably would have tried to talk to our opponents and convince them that clearly they are in need of augmentation given their defeat, and espouse the benefits of doing so in order to perfect themselves.
Interesting. I didn't realize Reverend Byrne was like pro augmentation proselytizer.
Oh yes, it's clear that via the emperor that he is one of the atoms that we have seen, ADAMS, and that it's clear that the next step in humans achieving equality with God is through the exploration of self-betterment through augmentation of such. Mm-hmm. If the Emperor has done it, why is it not good enough for the rest of us?
So I imagine during that time you have some interesting conversations with specifically these three up in the corner here. Esperez is a Terran monk. Hyakamaru here is a being who was born as a human, but had the brain to computer transfer process, done on him at a very young age, like I think like 4 years old or something like that. And so has lived his entire life inside of a robotic body.
He's an interesting character because he and Roy share some similarities. Hyakkimaru was a prototype of the process that is used on thoughts to put them in biological bodies. So the machine intelligence that ran his body basically while he was living inside of the machine intelligence and not really in control of anything, that was destroyed in our last season. And now the very childish, because he has basically just been a child inside of a machine that was operating, or a machine brain that was operating his body. The real Hyakkimaru is now back in control of his own body, but he's incredibly immature because he has not been socialized at all.
Well, and he also got regressed because he went from being like 22 years old
to like 13.
Yeah, last campaign he was 22 years old, and then he gave us a backup of his mind from the time he was 13, and that is the version of Hyakkimaru who is on the ship now and is like 23, I think.
Yes. So he's back to the same-ish age that he was in the last season.
But has had just a weird life.
Yeah, it's a different Hyakkimaru, basically.
Yeah, he also got to see his future self get chopped to pieces.
All to pieces by Avalon, just,
Yes. Okay, so all these characters are gathered together in the, give me 1 second.
I think in the time between going from the hangar to the command deck, that 3 hours, Roy probably would have just reconnected in some way with Ruta, and introduced Paprika to him. I imagine Ruta doesn't like littering, and he would have had a problem with Paprika just throwing her candy wrappers everywhere. But I don't know though, Ruta. What?
No, that's not. I don't think that would be a thing.
Ruta doesn't care about littering.
I don't think Ruta does care about littering.
Would Ruta give her more candy, or?
If Paprika kicked ass.
Yes, she was the MVP of that battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that would be the primary focus on Ruta's mind.
Okay.
Ruta doesn't give a shit about littering either. Morgan gives a shit about littering, but Ruta would not care.
Okay.
Oh God, has anybody seen Record of Ragnarok?
No.
I've only heard about it.
Okay, well, it basically makes a bunch of mythological characters and gods and whatnot and other historical figures into like fighters in this arena combat shit. But there's this guy who plays the image for Buddha, basically, is essentially a two-armed version of Ruta. Aeneas, is that accurate, do you think? Yeah? I'll get a picture of him.
Okay, so all these people are called to the command deck to have this conversation of, a gathering of like-minded people to talk about what kinds of stuff they are working on. So represented here, we've got Nox and his second-in-command, Lise. We've got, I think I think Eilish is probably hanging out with Roy and Paprika. We've got Ruta and Reverend Byrne together. Ruta, do you have any? You have some of your Canadian Ninja Warriors traveling with you, in addition to the Tickler. are there any named Canadian Ninja Warriors that are like a lieutenant that would come to this kind of meeting with you?
Yeah. Their name is Bronson.
Bronson? Alright. Sort of a tough looking guy?
With a thick mustache.
Yeah. Super thick mustache.
Alright.
And
I don't know if it's a man. I'm not sure if it's like...
Tough looking woman with a super thick mustache.
Yep.
Hey,
That's cool.
it's a hell of an aesthetic.
Yeah.
Alright,
If you say anything about her mustache, she'll punch you in the gut.
Alright, I'm grabbing... And what did you say this character's name was?
Bronson.
Bronson. Alright, I'm grabbing us a... oh my god. This is the one. Hold on. This is Bronson. Bronson is a Faunian, so she is part animal. Let me go ahead and put Bronson. Right, there we go. Okay.
I love it.
So we got Bronson with Ruta's group coming as a lieutenant. We've got the...
Yeah, Bronson and the Tickler have been buddying up on the ship. They've had shots competitions and...
Yeah, absolutely.
All of it.
Tag team.
Yep.
Okay, so we also have representatives of the Wombats, who are kind of a parallel to the group from the first campaign. These are people who take on mercenary missions and are generally pretty good people and try to do good work in the galaxy. So we've got Hyakamaru, we've got Anna here, who you guys originally met as Anwar, and we've got Liko, and then not officially a member of the Wombats because she doesn't do combat missions, but she does travel with them. She's Liko's girlfriend, and she is a prophet, actually. So it will be very interesting to have some conversations between her and Reverend Byrne at some time. We have Otema. O''Temah. Otema. And then, like I said, we have Commander Ilya and Captain Gemini of the Gemini. So you guys are all gathered together, and I think that the commander and the captain are kind of standing in the center. They have probably a big map of the galaxy held up, like up on a 3D hologram projector, and they are probably talking about some of the movements and major events we've seen in the past couple years of the war. Factions gaining and losing territory, new laws being passed in the different governments. Especially, I think they are taking time to talk about some of the unjust laws that they're working to fight against.
I think there also is some discussion about I don't want to say resurgence, but the appearance and acknowledgement of thoughts in the galaxy that are basically directionless post Mindenshire. Like, nobody knew about these things really before Mindenshire disappeared and then reappeared with the Eternal Dynasty.
Right. So are they
but
still,
there
are
is
this,
a series
is this
of there are a
still
series
going
of
by
them.
The Children of Mindenshire, or are they commonly recognized as entities called thoughts?
These were the Children of Mindenshire from the first season, who basically are no longer following Mindenshire's directions. The galaxy over that time period has learned that these things are thoughts in human bodies. So I think that as a part of this discussion, those are mentioned. It's not the main thing being talked about, but it is mentioned as just this is a seriously dangerous thing that we all need to be aware of. Like, it's not super frequent, but they are incredibly dangerous. And in that same conversation, there's mention of something that is just ending all life on planets, like not blowing the planet up, but something that looks like it's just gone through and meleeed everyone on every single thing, living being on the planet.
Just planetary genocide.
Yeah, just planets just covered with dead bodies.
So when the discussion of rogue thoughts comes up, did Roy ever tell anyone outside of the party that he was a thought and that he, used to be part of this organization?
Hyakkimaru knows, but he did not tell it. But okay, Roy didn't tell anybody.
It's not like, because I was gonna say that it seems like when this discussion came up, like Commander Ilya would maybe invite him up to talk, but if he's not telling anyone about his past, then she would have no reason to. Okay.
Yep, no. Roy's only known association with said thoughts in the universe right now is that people have seen him near where thought attacks are occurring, or rogue thought attacks have occurred. But they don't think that he's responsible for it, though they do think that he's in some way involved with it. So
right,
Roy could have gone up and talked to everybody about them and not cleared his name, basically, but just run down what I went through just a moment ago. How these things used to be.
Roy would be inclined to do when during this conversation?
I don't have a haiku immediately prepared.
Okay.
But let's just, for the sake of brevity, say that Captain Gemini asked Roy to speak on the rogue thoughts because he has been known to hunt or work around where they have recently been tracked. And he gets up in front of everybody. They're expecting to hear something profound, and he gives in a very obscure haiku that no one understands.
Excellent.
And then he goes back to stand by Paprika.
Okay. So I think that happens. Commander Ilya talks about sort of the current state of affairs of the war itself, which is that the resistance group that is the group of sort of rogue kingdoms trying to maintain their independence in the face of numerous conflicting imperial empires trying to conquer them. It's getting harder and harder as these different factions sort of get entrenched into their areas and really pick up momentum, and the war really heats up. She talks about that. I think probably Otema steps forward at one point and talks about some of the humanitarian crises that the wombats have been trying to alleviate. As all of this is happening, there is a Fawnian. There is a Fawnian navigator or sort of like operator working at one of the desks. Not part of this conference. Just they are in this conference is happening in the part of the ship that people do the piloting and the actual driving from. And
like when you're on a Star Wars bridge and you got like Wesley Crusher or
That's
whatever.
That's the word I was looking for.
Oh, you didn't hear me say it earlier. I totally said bridge earlier.
I'm sorry, I missed it. Okay.
All good.
So this guy tries to bring up his, catch people's attention, and I think he sort of shouts to Captain Gemini that hey, we're seeing a weird sort of occurrence happening gravitationally from the planet down below, and Captain Gemini, I think, tells him that that they will investigate the issue as soon as this conference is over. So the conference continues. Ruda, would you have anything that you would want to go up and talk about as the representative of Planet Canadian Ninja Warrior? Ruda? Morgan?
So sorry, 1 second. I need to walk away for 5 minutes. I'll be back.
Okay, talk to Morgan later.
So sorry.
Adora, Reverend Byrne, while this conference is happening, they get to a quiet section and they ask if any of the other, captains or representatives would like to come up and talk about what their group has been working on. Would you like to come up and talk about your organization?
Do you expect the pastor to ever pass up a chance to take a pulpit?
That's a very good point. So what do you talk about?
Well, I sort of give them the overall outline of you all are aware of the Emperor and the many things that he has done and continues to do in terms of allowing transport through the warp and fighting demons for us continually. You may notice that the Emperor was born a human, but the Emperor has become something greater. It is through that path that we are able to follow that. The Emperor is not the first to be born something and become greater. If you look in the religious texts that we have, you can see the stories of Adam, the first person who became something greater, who ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and through that gained knowledge, gained the ability for all of us to learn. And you will also see that there was a man born several thousand years later, also named, also referred to as the second Adam sometimes. You may happen to know. It's a closely guarded secret, but the Emperor was named Adam as well. And I think it's responsible, it is our responsibility to become that fourth Adam, the person who will change things, the one who is able to not only bring knowledge, to not only bring psychic power, as I believe the second Adam did, and not only bring the cybernetic enhancement that the Emperor has had, but to find that fourth important thing that we are searching for among ourselves to become better, to lead us into the next stage of human development and evolution.
Okay.
And I think we can
perfect.
find it and get there.
So, so while you're doing this, I think somebody, like, as soon as you finish your thing that you're saying, I think somebody in the crowd raises their hands. I think it's maybe Liko. I don't think it would be Otema, but I think Liko maybe would do this. Raises her hand and asks you how you reconcile the this approach of wanting to be like the Emperor with the some of the humanitarian atrocities and injustices that have been perpetuated by the Empire throughout its history. And as she is asking that question, I think there is this this shudder in the ship. It feels almost like an earthquake, or like if you're driving down the road and you were to just tap on the brakes real quick for just a second, and you can imagine the car just kind of lurching.
We're brake check.
The sensation that happens, but it's across the whole ship.
A brake
Yeah,
check.
Kevin.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Kevin.
Hey,
Hello.
good to see Morgan's back too. Morgan's back.
Morgan.
Hello,
I am.
Morgan.
I'm sorry, I'm late.
Quick and dirty. We are on the bridge right now, post the battle, the mock battle from last episode.
We're
We're discussing occurrences in the universe.
Okay, perfect.
Ooh, and actually, we're inviting different representatives of groups, captains of organizations, stuff like that, to come up and talk about what their organization has been working on. So,
Roy did an obscure haiku. Reverend Byrne did a nice barn burner about the fourth atom and how we can.
Otema and the commander and the captain all talked about sort of the fronts of the war and of the fight for social justice that they've been working on.
Should I go?
I can go.
So
And after you, Kevin.
before we have either of those, the ship just did a pretty substantial lurch just now. Like the whole ship just kind of shook, and I think that people are probably marginally alarmed by that. But like, stuff happens, and we can trust.
Yellow alert lights went off.
Yeah, we can trust the crew of the ship to handle it. So I think that maybe Captain Gemini says that she'll look into what's going on and to just continue the conference while she does that. So she heads down to the part of the command deck that the guy from earlier raised his hand. She's going to talk to him for a little bit, and in the meantime, we can continue having this conference. So, Ruda, do you want to go first since you've had a little more time to prepare?
Yeah, so, sorry about that. I had to step away real quick.
No worries.
But Ruda goes on stage and he's like, let me tell you all about the great things that we've been doing with Surf and Dog program. Surf and Dogs haven't been a thing over the past 40 years in the universe, and we pioneered sport related to Surf and Dogs. Let me talk to you about the mechanics of Surf and Dog. First, you have to get the dog to get into the water, and that sounds easy, but it's not that easy.
Oh my god.
Then you have to get the dog to understand what a surfboard is and what a wave is and how waves work.
Oh my
Which is really hard again because the dog is very distracted the entire time on jellyfish and algae, and let alone if it hits the wave, it just gets excited. But you have to get the dog to understand that this is for sport.
So
we started injecting them
looking
with-
at Ruda like, what the fuck?
So we started injecting dogs with genetic mutations that gave them bigger brains with the intent of helping them understand the importance of surfing and the competition involved in surfing.
You're genetically uplifting dogs.
To help them
That's
surf.
right. That's right. All for the purposes of the betterment of surfing dogs.
Okay, and so I think as you're doing this, I think that Captain Ilya... By the way, does Ruda still have a huge crush on Captain Ilya?
Oh, fuck yeah. He's doing this to impress
Absolutely.
Captain Ilya.
I think Captain Ilya walks over and pats Ruda on one of his four shoulders and says, "All right, well that is excellent, and I'm sure we are all very excited to learn more about the developments in surf dog.
Ruda's like, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there.
Technology."
Puts up a finger and he's like, let me stop you there. Hold on, Captain Ilya, 1 second. I haven't talked about the training that these dogs go through.
My
And
God.
I want everybody to be clear on the training that they go through is completely volunteer based. They sign contracts after they get genetically modified so that they understand what language is. And we have them sign contracts that they're going to work for us for 5 years, but voluntarily. And well, of course we give them livelihoods and we take care of our surfing dogs. It's all part of the surfing dog program and Canadian Ninja Warrior.
And
Ruda goes on for about another 30 minutes.
I think Captain Ilya looks at her watch and says, "Ooh, and look at the time. I'm sorry, we do need to have. I think we're hoping to have one more person come up and talk, and we're almost out of time. I'm so sorry, Ruda. You'll have to send us some of your research materials, and we'll definitely look at them. So why don't you head down there, and can we get another volunteer to come up and talk, please?"
Captain Ilya, meet me over at dinner and I'll tell you all about surfing dogs.
I think that you see her face sort of fall, and she goes, "Yes, Ruda, I will have dinner with you happily if you will just get off of the stage now, please."
All right, so Emil comes up, but I one question about surfing dogs before I go
Yeah.
on. Do you have an ethics committee? Do you
Yeah.
run things past the ethics committee?
You are asking
That's right.
to the company Canadian Ninja Warrior.
If it has an ethics committee?
Yeah.
No, we have an ethics committee. They're made out of it's made up of surfing dogs
I'm
that have agreed to this.
All right, good.
I do actually like the idea that the most ethical people at their company are a bunch of surfing dogs.
Are the dogs themselves? No, that is actually on brand.
It's a bunch
Yeah.
of like Newfoundland breeds, and they have very strong opinions about like, you know, the redistribution of wealth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kevin, Emil comes up. Do you want to give a quick speech about what the Nova planet has been up to?
Yes. Well, as you all know, since the Emil that was passed and into the void dimension to be obliviated a billion times.
Yeah.
I am not the Emil that you know. But I am the Emil that you know. You all know how you know how this works.
Mhm.
And I, in the interim time, was promoted. I rose to a certain amount of prominence in the Nova community, and I kind of liberated my home planet, and have essentially been working as an ambassador. Say what?
You were gifted a planet at the end of the last campaign as
Basically, yes. I was gifted a planet, and this planet is like a home for Nova, but I don't want to make this seem like it's like an Israel thing, because it's not we're not talking about we're not talking about Israel, right? Everybody is actually allowed to live on this planet. It's just also a safe, also advertised as a safe place for Nova, right?
Okay, I like that. Yeah.
And I think that Emil has been at that point kind of taking on boring administrative roles, diplomatic, basically Emil works in the State Department, or is, I guess maybe the best thing to be would be it's reluctantly become the Secretary of State for the planet that I inherited, right?
When Emil goes up and gives this speech, does he talk about how he's reluctantly taken on a bunch of boring desk jobs?
Yes. This is exactly what he's doing. This is exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm not extremely happy about it. So I spend most of my time trying to avoid doing a whole lot of work, and mostly just kind of secretly working on my projects that I am actually excited about.
That's excellent. Does Emil have any representatives or an entourage that travels with him?
Yeah. Yes. No. I think that's true, but I think it's a Teddy Roosevelt situation where the entourage is constantly turning their back, and then wait, where did Emil go? And I've abandoned them and have gone off to do something that I wanted to do. Important
question: is your entourage in the at this conference with you? Yes, but I believe that they're looking for me now. So okay, excellent. Okay, here's what happens. I think that a member of Emil's entourage bursts in through the door, and they say, "There he is!" And they all start charging towards you. And just at that point, there is another violent shudder in the ship, and this time I think people actually kind of struggle to keep their footing. And afterwards, I think through the transparent steel like windows, you can see that the ship has started to move and is kind of listing towards the planet now. And I think Captain Gemini looks up and says, like, oh man, she would have a really good, like, political way of saying this. She would say, like, I am sorry to disturb the conference, but I have the unfortunate pleasure of informing you that we are currently in the process of crashing. And I think as she says that, the ship reaches the part of the atmosphere where you start seeing atmospheric like re-entry fire burning up the windows of the ship.
Oh, fun! Are we starting to get red? Red are the yellow alerts turning into red alerts?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So what does everyone do?
Yeah, Ruta breaks into like save mode, defender mode, to try to like get to the captain's bay, the pilot center, see what's going on.
So you run down to where like Captain Gemini is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like at the control center of.
Right, because
like he's running toward the place where the pilot is.
Right, because we know that that Ruta definitely is going to be very helpful in a tense piloting situation.
Well, his instinct. Well, I mean, I'm going off the archetype here. His instinct is to kind of.
No. You're role playing fantastically.
Yeah, but he's not going to be helpful. He's not. He's just going to be like
helpful.
Way more harm than it's worth.
Okay, so can I actually? I don't want it to seem like it is Ruta's fault, but I do think that Ruta very much does not help during the attempts to repair the situation. And
I could actually go and help.
Yeah, Emil, do you want to rush down there and see if you can do anything?
Yes.
While everyone's freaking out, Roy walks calmly up to the observation window and looks out and says, "Enormous, modern, we're attacked by the sharks. A stroke of lightning." Yep, that's what he says. Yep.
Okay. So Emil, I don't want to spend too long on this scene, but is there anything you do to that you would do to help?
Have we just lost all power throughout the whole ship?
You still have power. This is the thing: is the ship still has power. It's almost like there's a tractor beam or something that has grabbed onto the ship and is pulling it down.
I take one look at it and I go, I think we're fucked, everyone.
Excellent. And with that, I think that the captain. So the ship is past the re-entry the re-entry fire stage. They have been able to slow it down a fair amount, and the captain actually notes that whatever was pulling on the ship just let go of it, and so they have the controls again, and they try to pull up, but they do not have enough time, and they end up slamming into the ground at not quite lethal velocities. So
Oof.
I think everybody is gonna.
Not quite.
Paprika, are you just running around screaming with your arms in the air? Or like, I'm trying to imagine what she would be doing.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so for my two co-DMs, I just moved us over to the Chapter 1 Lost Planet map. And I'm gonna start grabbing some resources, some sprites to copy over to that map. Zai, do you want to do some? Do you want to to kind of take over narrating from here while I get this part figured out? So the ship has just made contact. We are in the middle of a desert, which is on the... Did I seriously forget to include a desert in this? That was like the one thing we needed. Okay,
Let's
right
just
side
say
of the
it's
screen.
over on this. Oh, the right side.
That looks like the sandy part.
Right side, sandy part. So let's say here-ish. Okay.
So we touch down there, and why don't you?
Oh,
take over
touchdown
from here
is a
while I
nice
do.
word. The Gemini comes streaking through the planet's atmosphere, burning and losing several pieces of its fuselage and exterior on the way, and slams into a desert with sand that looks like it's made of clear crystal or glass almost, at probably just under the velocity that would have killed everyone instantaneously. So the people that are on the Gemini got thrown around and banged around quite a bit on the landing. The yellow alerts turned red alerts have now gone silent, but the red lights are still there inside of the ship. There are power failures. There are small explosions inside of the ship. Probably a couple of people got sucked out because there were some hull breaches with the fuselage being pulled off on the way down. And we're here. The planet that we're on, while it didn't seem to make any sense that it was here when we were looking at it from orbit, it makes even less sense now that we're actually on the planet. So we're in this crystal glass desert, but that doesn't seem to be the only biome that is in the area. Off in the distance, we can see a ridge and a mountain. We see flocks of what seem like birds flying through the air. A couple of people have tried to turn on external scans and try to get visuals of the area around us, just from the inside. Is how we're seeing some of these flocks of birds. And we're finding that things don't make sense. Like this isn't a world that matches any other world in the galaxy, at least that anybody knows about. So those birds that we saw flying around through the air, they're actually books. They're just flying books. Yeah, they're flying books that are reading themselves as they're flying through the air. We hear the sounds, and at first we thought they were the monitors thought they were chirps, but they're not chirps. They're just books. Like one is just a Webster's dictionary, just reading every single item that exists inside of it as a word.
It flies. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So other things that are observed, we see we see some trees in the distance, and the monitors seem to be picking up the rustling of the trees, but we find that these trees are actually in intense political debates, arguing amongst themselves. There seem to be cracked eggshells on the ground, but they're not cracked eggshells. They're actually faces. They're faces of people who seem to have gone through some sort of failed cosmetic surgery. This planet makes no sense. There are just random things which seem like they are being manifested from the random ideas that could have been had by people before our ship hit the planet.
So the two things I want to add to that, one, I think Zai hinted at this, is that there are a lot of different biomes in this area, like a lot more than you would normally see within this proximity of each other in a single continent. And the other thing is that, as you can see on this map, there's some amount of industrialization that has happened here at some point, but it's all very grown over and like truly ancient looking, and it seems to be impervious to whatever this weird stuff is that's making everything else on the continent get super duper weird. The machinery and the constructs seem to be relatively stable, as everything else is shifting and changing and being weird around them. And I think that's all I wanted to add. I have added our characters and our frames to the map. I think I got all of us. So, yes. Zai, anything else you want to add about the planet?
Giant flamingos.
Nice.
Giant building-sized flamingos just walking around, like minding their business, not doing anything particularly aggressive.
Okay. So it takes a while for order to, for order to return in the ship.
Now I have a quick question.
Yes.
So all of this stuff, is it just in people's heads? Because I am not a being that probably would be.
Nope. You are also. You are seeing it just as much as everyone else.
So they're real flamingos. They're
Yes.
real books.
Yes, these are
Yes.
all real things. They are physically. I wouldn't even say that they are physically manifested. They are physically present.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the
You,
other.
you can like reach your hand up. You can grab one of the books, and it will just like, hey, what are you doing? And it will like try
Yep.
to fly away.
Right.
Yep. And while it
All
seems like these things are generated by thoughts, they are also like by your thoughts in people's heads. They also exist independently of them. So
Ooh,
thinking about something else doesn't make the thing that you're looking at go away.
Got it.
Dreamlike physics is, I think, a good word for this. Also, I just realized, and this is sort of unintentionally ironic, the stuff that we're describing is exactly the aesthetic of the movie Paprika.
Okay, perfect. I
There's a
love
movie called
paprika.
Yeah, there's a movie called Paprika that's all about people. It's an anime movie. It's really gorgeous. It's from the guy who made
Satoshi Kon.
Yeah, it's from the guy who made Tokyo Godfathers, and it's about people who dive into people's dreams, and so the majority of the movie takes place inside of dream space and is all about exploring the ideas of like dream physics and all that kind of stuff. It's a much better exploration of what dream space is than what's that American Inception. While it's a very cool movie, those are not what dreams are like.
Yeah, no.
Also, real talk, Paprika came out like a year and a half before Inception, or maybe 2 years, and
really?
a lot of people, yes, and a lot of people, Paprika came out in 2006.
I thought it was
Inception was 20. Inception was 20, and so Inception is 2010. A lot of people suspect that like that Christopher Nolan was influenced by Paprika, at least to a certain degree. I'm not accusing it of being a full-on ripoff.
Okay, so and this is another thing that's worth noting here is that so a mill is a creature that does not have an organic brain, so would be immune to, would theoretically be immune to things that would affect an organic brain. But
unless it was specifically targeting my brain.
Wait, but Nova do have warp shadows, and so can be affected by warp hallucinations.
Fair enough.
Creatures that are purely mechanical cannot be affected by warp hallucinations, and Hyakamaru is able to confirm that he sees them as well. So if Hyakamaru sees it, and Emil sees it, and everyone else sees it, all evidence suggests it's physically there.
That kind of eliminates the two major like fuckery things that could be.
Right. It's not like hypnosis, and it's not warp magic. Okay, so I think that as a little bit of time passes, maybe like an hour or two passes, as people do immediate triage, taking care of the people who are significantly injured, trying to get a situation report on where you are and what the status of the ship is and stuff like that. And eventually the captain does... I think the captain calls everybody in the ship who is able to get up and move into one room, probably not the bridge this time, probably just like one of the like reception rooms or something, to give them a situation report. So the ship is pretty badly damaged. Its hull has a pretty big break in it that makes it not fit for space travel right now. It also shattered... how do I want to put this? I think that during the fall, the fuel tank was ruptured by a piece of flying shrapnel, and so they don't have any like any of the quantum dark matter fuel that is required to for the ship to operate. It also, I mean, a whole bunch of secondary functionality stuff was lost, but the big one is that the
communications dish
was lost. So even
communications dish lost, navigation messed up, a couple of hull breaches.
Right. So
yeah.
we did have a network of satellites that they had set up that could be used to send out a very specific targeted signal if needed from the nebula that we're inside of. But we can't send a signal to those satellites to relay out of the nebula because we don't have a communications dish. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's broken, and there is another much more immediate and concerning issue, which is that in the 3 hours since we crashed, they've measured that the ship has sunk an additional, 4 feet into the sand. So at this rate, we have... Zai, how long do you think we have before the ship has completely sunk and submerged?
I don't think that we could know exactly, but I think it's safe to assume less than a day.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So, that is
Reverend
the amount of
Burn
time
wonders
we
aloud.
have before the ship is, sunk and we are stranded here. So during that time, we need to find some way to either get out or get a message out to call for help. The stuff that is broken, we breached our fuel supply, so we don't have any fuel. We lost our comms relay, and our hull is breached, so we're not space-worthy. And we are sinking. Those are the four
How does everyone
things.
react to that? I just want to go around the group. How does everyone react to the fact that all this weird shit is on this planet? Like, what do you think of what is going on? The weirdness of the planet, the sinking of the ship, the destruction of our entry here.
It doesn't seem like it's good.
Yeah, Ruta thinks there's something weird going on, like demonic, and is also in the moment with Bronson and the Tickler focused on like getting people off safely. Hasn't thought much of it, but like it's like triggered a demonic presence reaction to him. Like there's something going on related to the warp.
So
and,
would
like,
this
spell demons?
So would it be like you were like being joking and jovial earlier, talking about the surfing dogs, and then all of a sudden you just clicked over into serious mode.
I mean, isn't that Ruta to a T?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just checking.
Yes, absolutely. As soon as like any type of like danger happens, like it's survival mode.
Emil, would you be trying to do any kind of like local environmental analysis or anything like that? Or
Yeah, I think that's got to be something that I do. I'm thinking that like maybe I'm better off like looking at the state of the ship, though. I might not be the best environmental surveyor, right?
Okay.
Well, you do have. I agree with that. You would be uniquely qualified to help with the repairs on the ship. You do also. Your frame is a science like reconnaissance like broad spectrum surveillance vehicle. So
yeah, that's true. So there's that too.
I
would imagine Emil being like sticking around the ship and trying to identify the places that were the most critical damage is, while the mech goes around in like a perimeter to just observe the area.
Right. Yes, I could. Yeah, that seems like.
And we could also have somebody who is not Emil piloting that thing and just doing a general orbit and collecting data. You know, the people, anyone other than Emil might not know what to look for, but they could at least get some recordings and then bring it back to Emil.
Right. Yeah. I'm okay with this. This seems like a good plan.
So it sounds like Byrne believes that this is like what's going on in this world is due to some immense power. And
Ruta thought it was due to demons.
Ruta thought it was due to demons. I don't know. Byrne, do you think it's demons, or do you think it's just like some other form of power, or like are you leading a prayer circle of people that are also like on the same page? Or
what I think I would do is, given my guess that there's either an amplification of psychic power in this area or that there's some immensely powerful individual, I think what I would attempt to do is get in my frame that has the divine voice amplifier and attempt to use that to see if I can speak into being a repair on the hull.
Ooh. That is a very interesting thought. Okay, so I wanted to say my character has an ability called spirit calling. I can use to contact and or summon warp entities. So I think I'm intrigued by Ruta's suggestion, and I am going to
suggestion of the demons, or
Ruta's suggestion that this might have been caused by a demonic or some kind of like warp entity.
Got it.
So Ruta, I want your input on this. I can communicate with entities in the warp. I can't look into the warp, but I can kind of call out and see what responds. So, do you think it would be a good idea for me to just kind of do a general broad, like, ping of the area and you know, shout out into the warp and see what answers back? Or do you think there's a safer way we could go about that?
Is Ruta communicating this to, like, is Ruta asking Paprika?
Eilish is asking this to Ruta.
She's asking Ruta. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Ruta would definitely. Doesn't Ruta have an ability to get into the warp too?
You have an ability called Master of Demons that lets you summon and command demons. So
got it.
So I think
and just awareness.
The biggest risk of my thing is I don't know what's going to answer, and also my thing allows me to communicate with warp entities but it doesn't let me control them. And yours is sort of like a force of domination. Like once you have found a demon, you can dominate it. So maybe we can work together. I will call out into the warp and see what responds, and you will, if we get something bad and nasty coming back at us, you can try to stomp down on it.
Yeah, would that question to the DM, would that be controlling it within the warp, or do I have to pull it out of the warp? Or does it already have to be out of the warp?
I think it will. I think that if there is something bad in the area, it will come out of the warp to try to get us.
Okay, got it. Okay. So yeah, I think Ruta wants to like gut check that, and
so
once Paprika asks, he's like, yes.
To the two of us doing that as a starting point, and then coming up with other stuff to try from there.
Before we go too far, I just wanted to check in and see Paprika. What are Paprika and Roy doing?
You have to tell us what Roy is doing. Aeneas, what's Paprika doing?
Sometimes Roy just follows Paprika.
No, I think Paprika's just following Roy right now. There's too much going on.
Okay.
Wait, so who am I partnering with? I thought it was Paprika.
I'm Eilish.
Eilish. Got it.
Paprika's the little
okay.
girl.
So Eilish and Ruta are like teaming up to try to. As soon as it like Ruta talks to Eilish.
Okay.
We're gonna go check it.
So the 7 kinds of moves, we've got research, navigate, negotiate, meddle, recovery, head-to-head, setup, and spike. That is 8, not 7. I think this is research, right? We're not trying to like kick something's ass. We're trying to just find out what the situation is. So I'm gonna roll research. Skill.
Also, everybody, I'm gonna have to probably head out in like 10 minutes to do baby stuff.
Is that a long-term head out or a short-term head out?
It's a long-term head out.
Okay, cool. I will do my
Sorry,
thing,
I couldn't
and
stay
then
longer.
we'll have your character do some stuff before you leave.
Okay, sounds good.
Occult, what ability am I using? I'm using Spirit Calling, and I do not have advantage. Oh shit! 11 is a very good roll. On a 10 to 12, answer 2 questions, roll a clock forward, choose 2 bonuses and 1 complication. Okay. We need to establish some clocks, which we will do afterwards. For now, since it's the only clock that we have, I'm going to roll our Space Sharks clock forward. And then, let's see, answer 2 questions, choose 2 bonuses and a complication. I will choose +1 forward and answer 1 additional question, I guess. And for my complication, I will take I think suffer morale, just because I can't think of a way that this would affect a price that I could pay for this. Okay, so I have 3 questions I can answer now. Ruta, since you're working with me, what do you think our questions should be?
Is there an entity in the warp that's malicious?
Okay.
In this area.
Zai, I think the answer to this is no. Do you agree with that?
I think the answer is yes and no.
Okay. I agree. I think the answer is sort of, it's complicated, but we do not immediately get attacked, and I think that I do not get a sense that there's like a demon lord or any like a singular super powerful presence in the warp.
Yeah.
It's more like the warp is really muddy and messy and chaotic around here.
Yep.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, does the how Root is very knowledgeable about the warp, and I assume so is Eilish.
Yeah.
What conclusion then do we draw from that? Like, just like a tracker would track the footprints of an animal.
Sure. So
I think
What
that
sign is that for?
the best thing that you could gain from that type of question is learning of the incredible unpredictability of this area.
I'm gonna say that to answer that question more directly, usually a planet that has a very chaotic warp is going to be an extremely metropolitan planet. The more people you have in an area, the more densely populated and convoluted the warp is. In the void of space, the warp is basically empty. In a place that has just nature, you're going to see some warp atmosphere, but not a lot of warp entities. In a place that has a lot of animals, you'll see warp entities, but nothing too chaotic. It's really when you get a whole lot of intelligent life together that it gets chaotic. So the warp in this planet feels like we're in the middle of New York City right now. But in the material realm, it looks abandoned.
I think it's also accurate to say that the warp is in serious flux in this area. So imagine a holodeck on Star Trek. And they're going to like, oh, let's go to the Old West, and they go to the Old West, but then all of a sudden there's Nazis there for some reason, and then Jesus walks out around the corner, and then there's like a talking snake that comes up out of the water, and it's just like, follow me.
So
it's just
what we find by me,
everything and nothing at once, everything all at once is occurring in the warp.
Everything everywhere all at once. So
yes.
What happens?
I love that
movie
so much.
Pinging the warp is that I get the impression that just as weird as everything is in the material realm, it is equally weird in the warp.
Yes.
That leaves us with one more question. Does anyone else have a question that we could answer by doing a warp investigation?
I don't know. A mill's wheelhouse is not the warp. Let me say.
I feel like Reverend Byrne and maybe Roy would have come to similar conclusions and started wondering aloud, where is the concentration of power for the warp on this world?
I would also perhaps wonder, is there anything impeding travel through the warp? Because that's probably Reverend Byrne's escape plan if everything goes south.
Makes sense.
So I've only got one answer left. Which of those two do you guys want answered?
Up to the group.
How about this?
I like Reverend Burns.
We can answer the second one with a very simple experiment. You try warping and you see what happens.
That makes sense.
So I'm going to answer the first one, which is I don't know how we would go about finding this. You know what? Maybe we just ask. Like, I can talk with warp entities. Maybe I just ask one of the warp entities around here, like, where is the biggest source of power in this area? And within the warp, at least, the biggest source of power and the source of all this chaos is down, beneath us.
Down? Oh.
Interesting.
Down.
In hell!
And I think once we hear that answer, we see the Gemini shift a bit more into the sand.
Okay. Kevin, while we've got you for like 2 minutes longer,
yes.
Do you think you would call it a research on the state of the ship?
Yes, let's do that. I think that's the best way to describe. Did we lose people?
Yep. So this is a 2-part action. One part is what's the state of the ship, and then the second part. The second part we'll do after you head out, which will be somebody taking your ship to do a loop and seeing what they find on surveillance. So this is gonna be research, and this is probably gonna be some kind of wit, hardware, mechanics, probably.
Okay.
Toolkit suite. Do you have advantage? No. Oh my fucking god!
God damn!
That's the biggest number I've ever seen in this game.
Nice.
I think that is close to the biggest number
double
possible.
sixes. It's well, I think it could be a +4, right? But it's two.
A +4 would be the biggest number possible right now, but it's pretty damn close. Okay. So on a massive success. You get both bonuses, the extra forward and an extra question, and you get 3 base questions. So you're looking at 4 questions total. Okay.
Morgan's back. Hooray.
All right,
Kevin,
All good.
what kind of questions can you think of to ask about the ship?
Is there a way that I can keep it from sinking? And yes, is there a mechanical thing I can do to prevent this thing from sinking?
I would think yes. I would think that we could do some we could create some pulleys and winches to kind of pull it out of the sand a bit.
Yeah, and then we could use the current. Well, what's it called? We could use the
Who is being asked this question? Or
what's his name? Emil is doing research. So on a successful research roll, you get to ask some questions of the DM or just of the story at large.
I think I do agree that the answer would be yes. However, I think that there would also be an indicator for an unknown variable that prevents you from actually being able to execute said maneuver.
Sure.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff going on. So, there's a lot of variables right now. But the short answer is yeah, probably. I mean, in any normal circumstance, you would think, yeah, we've essentially just got something stuck in quicksand. We should be able to get that out with just some pulleys and winches. Who knows if that'll work in this weird planet, but it's worth a shot.
The baby fell back asleep, so I have a few more minutes.
Okay.
I sent a picture of
sleep.
I sent a picture of the baby if you all want to look at that.
Oh my god, her little Clark Kent poofy swirl.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's a baby. Anyway, continue.
We've got 3 more questions left. And you know what? I'll spread this out to include the surveillance ship's journey. So, anybody else in the party can shout out some suggestions. But do you have a second question you can think of? And remember, I've got that list of things that are broken about the ship up above. The hull is ripped. It's sinking. The fuel tank is ripped, so we lost all of our fuel, and the comms relay is broken.
I think we should ask if there are replacement parts or a comms relay or something that could be used to replace parts in the comms relay anywhere nearby.
Yeah, Kevin, you're all right using one of the questions for that?
Yes, that seems good.
So the answer about replacement parts is no. Can we find something could we make replacement parts? We've established that we have a very sophisticated 3D printer kind of machining thing in the engineering bay. I think if it probably got messed up during the crash, but it wouldn't be too hard for somebody to go through and just like recalibrate it. If somebody could do that, and then somebody else could collect some... Kevin, can you think of any materials you would need for a comms relay other than just like metal?
I mean, I don't know. Like, are we talking about like oh shoot, I don't know. Like a bunch of, I mean, like, just a bunch of wires, really.
Yeah.
Chemicals to make plastic and rubber.
And people used to be able to make radios using like a wire and like a crystal, right? Like you can use a crystal to make a radio. Am I making that up?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
So let's say the stuff that we need is we need to get metal, we need to get some kind of insulation, and we need to get some kind of crystal. So
we got lots of crystal all around us.
That's true. I forgot about that.
So we could probably use whatever's the substrate that this desert is made of for at least one of those things.
Right. Okay. So 2 more questions. What were the other kinds of repairs we needed to do? The fuel tank is lost.
Fuel tank and hull breach.
Yeah. So for hull breached, Kevin, do you wanna use your last 2 questions to just answer the last 2 problems?
Yes.
You know,
yes,
what do we
I
do
think
about
yes.
fuel and what do we do about the hull?
I think that's perfect.
So I can give an easy answer to the hull, which is we need a very specific kind of we need metal and ceramic for the hull. Metal and ceramic. So Kevin, do you know some good sci-fi bullshit we could make up for what kind of fuel this would use? I think I said dark matter earlier, but honestly, I was just thinking about Futurama.
Just make it antimatter.
All right. So
I think that's fine.
Ionized hydrocarbons.
How
hydrocarbons.
How would somebody go about? How would McGuire?
I just stuck the MacGyver.
How would
McGuire.
MacGyver make antimatter?
Tobey Maguire. How would Tobey Maguire?
Well, he would shoot some spider string out of his.
Yep. There you go. How would MacGyver go about doing what again?
How would MacGyver make antimatter?
I mean, I don't know if I can answer that question because I don't think that humans can make large quantities.
Anything that we say at this point will be fantasy. So
all right.
How about this? We can't make any of the fuel that the ship normally uses, but we might be able to make enough fuel of a different variety to get us out of the nebula, and then we can get help. So, what about there's like stuff you can get in water to make a fusion reactor.
Yeah, you're talking about deuterium, which is water, or specifically hydrogen atoms that happens to have a neutron instead of just a proton and a neutron. It's naturally occurring in seawater in like 1 part per million, and you can theoretically get it via centrifuge.
Okay, excellent. So we're gonna say we could collect some deuterium for fuel. So that answers the 4 questions about.
That's not even. You asked me for sci-fi bullshit. That's just real. That's just real life, like what we would do.
Sure, but
you asked me for bullshit, Bren. You didn't ask me for what we'd actually do.
Okay.
I mean, we could also say that there's a deposit of exotic matter that's somewhere on this planet
that's
that we
actually
also.
a very good. That's a good point because or look.
This is a random chaos planet, so I don't think it would be weird for there to be some kind of deposit of an exotic matter that we could use.
But it would be the normal amount of weird.
Yeah, it's supposed to be weird, you know?
Yeah.
Not even that weird, you could talk about lithium as potentially able to be used as a fuel, or helium. So you could potentially get helium from a. They're generally found in oil deposits, whereas lithium would be a metal found in a mine.
Or maybe we just fly around until we see a random flock of we see the fucking house from Up flying around here, and we just go and cut all the ribbons and take all the balloons for ourselves for its helium. Okay, this is excellent. So that gives us a roadmap for what to be doing for repairs. I feel like I had one other. Oh, right. So that reminds me, Kevin, did you see the thing I messaged you about earlier?
You mean the thing you sent to me and Nicole?
Yeah.
It was a lot of text, and I saw it, but I haven't read it yet.
So I sent this to Kevin earlier, and this feels appropriate to the conversation we just had. I've been listening to this podcast, and it's like Mobile Suit Gundam. What was it called? Mobile Suit Breakdown is the name of the podcast, and it's two people, one who's seen all the Gundam episodes, one who's never watched the show before, but knows a lot about Japanese culture and history and has seen a lot of anime, and they watch every episode of. Their goal is to watch every episode of every Gundam series ever made, which is like well over 1,000 hours of media, and do a podcast episode about every episode, which does not sound interesting. It sounds like the kind of thing that like hardcore fans might like, but it doesn't sound like it would be a good podcast for most people. But it's a really good podcast because it's not actually about the Gundam show. They use the stuff that the stuff that is in an episode that they watch as a lens to discuss history and culture from the time that the thing came out. So like there's an episode in the original Gundam show where a bunch of people who used to live in space have lost their homes, and now they're being forced to migrate back to Earth. And this one guy who's like really old talks about how his parents used to be coffee farmers in South America, and they heard this and they were like, that's a weirdly specific thing to include. So they researched it, and they found out that in 1979, when the show was being aired, there was a huge migration crisis in Japan of ethnically Japanese people who had moved to South America, now moving back to Japan because of changing political and economic statuses. And then Japan was having this huge immigration culture clash because there were a bunch of ethnically Japanese people moving back into Japan but not being culturally Japanese. And
interesting.
That's such a niche, interesting thing that I would have never learned about, but I learned about it because they mention it. It's like an offhand joke in a Gundam episode, and this show is basically just going through every episode and finding all of those that's a weird thing, let's research that. Oh shit, that was historically significant, or that's a huge culturally niche thing that Americans wouldn't understand, or whatever. So it's a very interesting show, and that's what I thought of when we were talking about finding, when you said but that's just a real world thing.
Yeah,
that's a thing they do a lot in this show, is they talk about why the hell did they have this kind of technology? That doesn't make any sense. And it's because the space race was happening.
Yeah, I'm wrapping up.
That technology was.
Hey, I have to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye, Kevin.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. So that
Bye, Kevin.
podcast is my new favorite thing. Okay. So we've got a list of things we can be working on to try to get the ship in better shape. and we also have a route for investigation into what's up with this planet, which might also tell us why we got dragged down to the planet in the first place, which could be important information to know. Does anybody else want to do any kind of research or investigation before we start working on the actual repairs and investigation?
No, during all the, or not Roy, but during all the investigations, Roy finally got Paprika settled, at least just sitting or chilling near the ship and not messing with the crystal glass shards.
Oh my
and
God.
not trying to pick up everything.
I don't know why, but you putting it like that immediately puts me in mind of the protagonist from, what is it? I think it's Dead Rising 2, where you're the dad in the mall and you've just got to keep your girl in like one of the... He just keeps his daughter in one of the like underground tunnels under the mall and brings her Zombrex every 24 hours and like, here, play with your Game Boy while the world falls apart.
Oh my God.
Fantastic. So,
okay, so
Roy says, attendant, lonely formation of the planet, octahedral voids, and then looks at the Gemini. And while all this research and all the discussion has been going on, there are a few holdouts. I just wanted to say, like, part of the world building. There are a few holdouts on the ship. They just won't leave, you know, kind of like those idiots who's just like, hey, there's a hurricane or a flood coming. They're just like, I'm not leaving my land. Some people have stuff in their rooms that they are just really attached to, maybe holographic computers that are hooked into a system, and they don't want to abandon them because they play holograms too much and they actually love their hologram friends. I don't know,
Sure.
but they won't leave the ship. And also, the ship just sunk a little bit more.
Okay. So
There's like 25% of it sticking out of the sand now.
So one thing to note,
sticking fast.
I will go through maybe after the game or the next time that we have. It's going to be after the game before we get any downtime. But when you do research, every question that you ask, whenever you get an answer, that answer becomes a ongoing forward, which means it is a resource you can use to get advantage on a roll one time, and it just kind of stays with you until you use it or until it is no longer relevant. So the questions that we asked about the warp earlier and about knowing that there's a thing below us, now if we do any future, for example, if we try to get down to whatever that power source was, we will have advantage on, let's say, the navigate roll to get down there. Every answer is only good for an advantage one time. It only makes one forward. Unless you have the +1 forward bonus, which we both got. So in that case, it means you can use the thing twice. So I will go through and try to mark down the questions that we asked during our research section so that we know that we have them available as forwards for the rest of this level to help us anytime we're trying to act on those answers. So, with that said, let's see. I think that the crew would probably think that the first thing we should try to do is let's try to get some pulleys and winches set up and see if we can keep this thing out of the sand for a while. Maybe try to pull it back up. Is everybody on board with that as our first action?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since Kevin stepped out, I think my character has the next best hardware roll because machines are one of her fascinations. So I think I'm probably the best person to do that. And this is gonna be, I guess we would just call this a setup, but we're not gonna worry too much about the specifics of, okay. Chemistry, Gemecraft, Investigate, Lore, Mechanics. And I'm not using any particular ability here. Do you have advantage? Yes! Yeah, I can take advantage of Kevin's question. Alright. That would have been a much lower number if I didn't have advantage.
Hooray!
Nice.
Okay, so that was my number of 13. So on a 13 or above,
Yes.
you know, gain 2 forwards. In this case, that just means like a great success on the thing we're trying to do. And you get 2 bonuses. We create an additional forward. We gain an asset. We answer a question, or we have a less severe battlefield event, but that's not something we have to worry about anyway. I think that gain an asset makes sense. Let's say that. Does anyone have any suggestions for like something we could find while doing this that would be helpful?
Helpful to get the ship out.
So, an asset is something that you can use in the future. It's something like, like a key would be a kind of asset. Something that's like, if you had a device that you're planning to use to, like, disable cameras for an operation, that would be an asset. The difference between an asset and an ability is usually that an ability you expect to use continuously throughout your character's career, and a asset is something that is used one time or used for one very specific thing, or that doesn't have any use at all and it just represents like a material thing you have that you might lose at some point. So like some money that you can bribe people with would be an asset. Like a really nice watch could be an asset. Because sometimes, and as a result of a bad roll, you have to pay a price, which can mean just losing an asset is a way to avoid dealing with a worse thing. So I think that maybe the thing that I get is just while doing this, we end up, we search the ship and we find some really high quality wenches, and we have those on hand now for if another thing happens in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a good bet. I was gonna say a hat, but that's much more useful what you're describing.
I don't know how I would find a hat during this. I mean, that's not to say I couldn't just say, like, I get a hat. But, yeah.
Well, what if, like, I was thinking that, like, those, whatever
God,
was like, decay was left
because we're
from
on
civilization.
like a random occurrence planet.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
Right.
I really like that. I'm getting rid
But
of
there used
wench.
to be people, right? Like, what the fuck happened to the people? And then you find that's where I landed on the hat. Like, it was some article of possession that somebody else who, whatever happened here, had.
The only remnant of like any recent biological activity is this hat.
Right.
Right.
So my
Right.
character has a hat on her sprite. I'm going to say that's her usual hat, and she goes and puts that back in her room, and now she has a fancy hat that she's wearing instead.
I love it.
Can we make it a military beret?
Sure, yeah.
You know, like the Black Panthers would wear?
Yeah, that's
like
great.
that's the only thing that's
love it.
found on this planet.
What? It's not a Von Dutch trucker hat?
Okay, fancy military. Oh boy, BA.
Now I want it to be a trucker hat. What?
BERET.
Now I want it to be a trucker hat.
Okay.
Fedora.
No, it's a fancy military beret. All right, so
Well, there's a reason why I said that.
a
So
fancy military beret. Okay.
Is it raspberry?
that's what we call a clue.
Yes. No. What roll did I just do? Setup? Frick. My macro for setup is broken.
Oh no.
I will go fix that. No, maybe I won't. I'll fix it later. Okay, so we are able to wench it up, so it is currently not sinking into the sand. It is wenched up solidly, and we probably have it attached to like a couple rocks on this cliffside behind it. It's very solidly attached. And then it's 4 o'clock. Zai, do you think it's time to move on to our next thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So we just finished wenching up this ship, which makes it all the more alarming when there is this like ripple in the sand around the ship, and then the wenches which are attached to the cliffside behind it just rip out of the cliffside as the ship is sucked down in one fluid motion and is lost beneath the crystal desert.
And remember, there were holdouts on that ship, so there were some people who got stuck
on
down
the
there.
ship.
Root is very shocked. He's like shocked and angry.
Yeah.
All four hands clutching at pearls.
I think at this time, Reverend Byrne is actually going to try out that warp teleportation to see if she can make sure that the people there don't drown somehow.
Ooh, okay.
And could be flowing in through the hull breaches.
Yeah, that is, oh, that's very good. Okay, thank you for doing that. So, 2 things you discover. No, I'm gonna say that you can do that just like normal. It's not any... There's no resistance. That it's not particularly weird. The warp is cluttered here, so I think maybe it takes a little more effort than if you were doing it somewhere else. But you're able to warp just fine. The way that teleporting works in this setting is either you have to know exactly where you're going in relation to yourself. So that's like, if there's a wall in front of you and you know that there's a room on the other side of that wall, you could just say, I'm going to teleport 4 feet forward. That's one way you can do it. The other way is if it is a place you can see, you can teleport to it. Or if it is a place that you are familiar with, you can teleport to it. So you've been in this ship for a couple days now. If it was like your home planet, you can teleport to your home planet anytime, but you wouldn't necessarily be able to teleport back because the place that you teleported from isn't somewhere you're familiar with. So because you're kind of familiar with this ship, you'll be able to do it, but it'll be a little difficult. So why don't you, this Reverend Byrne is not, update default token. There we go. Okay. So now, can you click on Reverend Byrne to take an action, and this is going to be a navigate roll. Probably using Either heart divinity or do we have a navigate? No, it wouldn't be navigation. It's either divinity, occult, or I think that's it. I think it's probably divinity. So your skill is heart divinity. Your ability is going to be not the frame ones. You want the character ones. Instant
character
warp
divine.
transmission. And then you probably do not have advantage on this. I don't think any of the questions we asked earlier would relate to it. No advantage. All right. Jesus Christ, the rolls today. Okay, so an 11, gain 2 forwards and a, wait. This is for navigate? Huh.
I mean, normally it's a battle thing.
Right. Okay, yep. That makes sense. So, so I'm going to ignore the forwards and stuff. I'm going to say you don't get a complication. You can choose a forward or a question to answer, or you can gain an asset or a string. And then yeah, and you don't have to pay any consequences. So here's
I'll just take a string to the people I saved then. Seems like they'd be pretty happy with me.
Yeah, here's what you find. You teleport into the ship. You probably end up teleporting to like your bedroom where you were staying in the ship or something. And then you head out and you investigate, and you find that other than some a bit of mess from like sand that leaked in through the windows, the ship is not actually actively drowning. And when you find one of the windows and you look out, you see that the ship is sunken into some kind of underground cavern with bits of like crystal sand sort of dripping down from the cavern roof above. So somehow the ship is fine. Now here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say,
but
you're able to teleport yourself back up to the surface, but you won't be able to take any people with you in the process, just because of your level of familiarity with the region. But you can take a.
I think.
Do you want to take a string with with a specific person you like that you ran into down there, that you had the chance to say like, hey, let everyone know not to worry, we're coming down to get you, or something like that.
Can I add one tiny bit of audio ambience here?
Yeah.
Not anything that I'm going to put on like for y'all to listen to, but you hear howls outside of the ship in this cavern. You hear howls.
So like they're not
when you look,
super
when you looked at, you didn't see anything, but you hear them.
Right.
And they're not like normal animal howls. It's something unnatural.
Right.
And we're just gonna go like. Do we hear it?
No.
In that situation,
Reverend Byrne heard it because she teleported down to where the ship is.
Gotcha. So like we're not hearing it above.
Yeah. Nope. Only Byrne's hearing it.
So Byrne, I went through my list of NPCs I had on the ship, and I feel like the guy you make a connection with is this guy who does not have a name or a description or anything about him. So why don't you give me like one sentence on who this dude is, and we'll add him to your character sheet.
Is it this guy? Is that who you're talking about? Oh, that's awesome.
When you say this guy, I'm not seeing anything.
See what I'm thinking?
Are you on
give me a second.
the Lost Planet map?
Yeah. So the pink bird person?
Yes.
Yes.
Huh. Okay. So you're saying a connection with him something?
Yeah. So you have gained a new string with this guy. Let's come up with. I'll come up with a name for him. You tell me something about him, and then we'll define. I mean, your relationship with him is probably going to be like savior or something.
Uh-huh. Yeah, something along that line.
So tell me like one detail that you come up with about this guy.
Lord Featherby?
I'm going to say that he is a librarian, but he has a bad habit of turning books he doesn't like into nest material.
Oh my god, that's excellent. And I'm gonna say that this librarian's name is Abraham.
Nice.
Okay, that's excellent.
And now I'm thinking about the character Aberdolf Winkler.
Okay, so the next time we play, we know that we sensed something down beneath us when we were up on the surface. We know that the ship has sunk into some kind of cavern down below the sand. We need to find a way to get down to the ship. That'll be something we do next game. And then we're going to have to find a way to get the ship out, which is going to be all the more complicated because it is buried in some kind of underground cavern. The last thing I wanted to do was... Right. We have some post-game stuff we need to do.
Does Burn returns to the surface, right?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Would you have told anybody about the howling that you heard, or would it have affected your character in any way, or?
Affected, no. Told, probably.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Cool. So the group is aware that there is a cavern and that there are howls in said cavern.
Okay, so I am... I moved us all back to the homepage. I'm going to... let's see, what did I want to say? Do we need to add any ongoing forwards or new strings? Okay. So, we need to do our post-game stuff. First of all, we get to do, for our first time ever, we get to do our trigger action list. So, everybody go through the archetype section on your character sheet and see if any of your archetype triggers were met during today's game. I'm looking at a Mills now. Meet someone who is threatened. Allow your principals to distract you from the mission. I don't think any of Emil's apply. I'm looking at Eilish's.
I imagine one of mine could.
Okay. What you got?
Sermonize to an unfamiliar audience.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
And what did you get for that?
Forward.
Awesome. Okay, so let's add that under resources. We're going to add a new forward for you. It's going to be something about your relationship. It's going to be something specific to the people of this ship. Maybe... How about something that describes that there are a few people on the Gemini who are, like, genuinely intrigued by what you were saying?
Okay.
So I'm gonna say interested potential converts on Gemini 3. Okay. So, did anybody else, Paprika? Probably not anything for you, I would think.
No, I don't think so. I was maybe like the third one, but I feel like Paprika was like, she was kept well distracted enough.
Yeah, I don't think so. And Roy.
Nope. None of my triggers hit.
Yep. By the way, everybody feels good about your list of triggers and your list of ordeals. They all feel appropriate to the story you want to tell.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So we are done with the triggers section. Does your character have any injuries that they can heal? Or any frame repairs that need to happen? I was very tempted to say that.
I think everybody should be slightly injured.
Yeah.
We just crashed on a ship.
I kind of want to say that rather than just lowering our health, I think that everybody should give themselves either a is that thing broken? Hold on. A wound, a break, or a trauma is what I was trying to say. Okay, so a break is either a part of your body that is disabled, or a piece of equipment that is disabled. A wound is some kind of injury that gives you disadvantage on one of your 6 stats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your 5 stats. So you would have like disadvantage on all grit rolls until you heal this wound. And then a trauma is some kind of trauma response that you have in response to something that happened to you. So I think all of our characters need to take at least one of those in response to the hard landing that we had. I think one of the most intuitive ones is to say that you have one of your traits is broken. So either your hands, your legs, your fucking voice, your sight, whatever, is injured, or that you have. I'm literally just saying everything. Anything other than a piece of broken equipment, but a piece of broken equipment would also be really interesting. Any of them could be really interesting.
And what is a trauma remove, or what does that debuff or whatever?
Yeah, so a trauma doesn't have a specific mechanical implication. It's just a thing you have to role play into. So let me see. I have a list of them around here somewhere. Show to players. Okay, scroll down to the bottom of this page, and there's a list of things you can choose for your trauma. You're generally going to want to stick with the stuff at the top, which is like, your character starts having dissociative episodes, or your character develops insomnia, or like, mild amnesia or emotional numbness or something like that. Or you could gain a new phobia or some kind of new addiction or compulsion. And then the delusions are like really high level stuff that I don't think is appropriate for a first time thing.
Gotcha.
Let me look at my abilities and traits and see if there are any that are appropriate to
I guess I would say Roy has a trauma.
Okay, which one?
Where is that list? Here. Trauma. That's delusions.
Trauma is the first thing on the list of traumas and disorders.
Yeah.
General trauma responses.
Dissociative episodes.
Oh yeah, that's great. Okay, so if you go on your character sheet, there's a section called Health and Status.
I'm writing it in the traumas and misc injuries section. And is it related to one of my abilities or?
No.
Okay.
You just write down that you have dissociative episodes, and that will persist until you take some time to repair your psyche.
Yeah, so it's not related directly, like it doesn't undo any of my traits or anything, but I will say it's because of Roy's compressed extra-dimensional brain.
Ooh.
This place is giving him severe headaches, and he is disassociating because of it.
Okay, so I'm going to say that I have broken wings. My character has wings, and
so
they are broken.
He's broken
during the falling process. Paprika. Oh, I'm gonna feel really bad about this. Aeneas, how did Paprika get fucked up?
You said we could
So there's three kind of, you could argue for there's four kinds. You can have an ability that is broken, which means a piece of equipment or something you can do that you no longer have access to.
If we break it, do we never get to use it again, or do we just have to wait till the next level we can fix it?
It's until you can repair it. Until you go out of your way to take the action of repairing it.
Okay. I was thinking about possibly because I imagine when the ship was doing a lot of sinking and just all the chaos that was going on, I imagine that Paprika fell over, and when things calmed down a little bit and she got a chance to check her backpack, she pulled Blarf out and found out that he got crushed.
Oh no! Okay, yeah, that's perfect. So go through, go to health and status, or you can go to abilities. Mark Blarf as broken.
Yep.
And Blarf will continue to be broken until you take time to repair it.
Poor buddy.
I took broken wing. I'm going to excuse Emil from this one because he's not here. And he was only here for part of the game anyway. Roy. Yeah, you took that compulsion. Ruda. Morgan. You there, Morgan?
Momo.
Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Cool. I'm thinking that I'm a little torn because he's got a really strong physique. So I was thinking something related to something crashed into him and he broke his horns.
Ooh. Ouch.
Or lost his hearing.
Ooh.
Damage. Yeah.
I love that. I love the idea of he has, during the crash, he maybe there was an explosion very close to him or something, and now he just has really bad tinnitus or something, and he's having trouble hearing people.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so your hearing is broken. By the way, you guys will notice that there is healthy, and then staggered, and then broken. Staggered is most of the time we're going to be dealing with something being broken, which means it's out of commission until you do something to heal it. Staggered is something that can happen if an enemy gets a critical hit on you. You lose... one of your abilities is essentially broken until the end of the scene or until the next time you have a chance to rest. But it is not permanently broken. So don't worry about staggered for now. And that leaves us with Reverend Byrne. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I posted in the chat. I think that I would likely be, pretty banged up in general. Maybe, twisted ankle, elbows messed up, neck, whiplash sort of situation. But since I have the biochemical stims as part of the power suit, it'd probably be flooding me with adrenaline to keep me from, not being able to move. But I would be, not accurate at all. So that's why I was thinking a disadvantage on grace stuff because, sure, I can walk, but I might be tripping.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe some combination of a twisted ankle and a mild concussion that makes it hard for you to control your body just right. Okay, perfect. Well, that's great. This is we all got a chance to try out the injury system. And then we will, next time we play, you guys will have the chance to heal some of those if you are able to set aside time to do so. Last thing, do we have to introduce any new clocks? And I feel like the answer is probably yes. At the very least, I think we need a new clock for the people on the ship. We know that there is some kind of, either they are in danger because of whatever we heard howling down there, or they're in danger because of just starving. So
yeah.
Well, I would say 2 clocks, and maybe because the being trapped in a ship underground in quicksand is one thing, and whatever the hell is howling is another thing and completely different.
Okay, so I'm going to say there's one clock that's going to be named Passengers on Gemini Starve. Or actually, I imagine... what do you think happened to the people who were injured? Because I imagine that a lot of the people who were injured are still on the Gemini and are at the most immediate risk. If they don't get medical attention in the next day, they might just die from lack of medical attention.
I think one clock could be lost to injury and exposure, and another clock could be howlers.
Yep.
Because exposure is a good way to wrap a lot of different environmental hazards into one word.
That's excellent. Yep, I agree. Okay, so we've got Space Shark Attack. We've got Passengers on Gemini, injury/exposure. And then we've got Passengers on Gemini, howlers? ? Yes. And I'm gonna say that I am going to put the injury/exposure one at 4 o'clock, which means that it is hold on. Choose a side. 4 o'clock. Okay, so... Oh my god, I wrote 4 wrong. I did I. How am I just noticed? Whatever. We're gonna have to deal with it. So I'm putting the injury/exposure one at 4 o'clock because I think that, they can last a reasonable amount of time before that's an immediate threat. But I'm gonna put the howlers at 6 o'clock, I think, and I'm Just giving myself a real quick reminder on how the clocks work, which I will share with you guys. 1 through 6, and the thing is just a possibility to be aware of. 7 through 9, the thing is guaranteed to happen unless you do something to stop it. So I'm putting I am putting howlers at 7 o'clock. Choose a side. 7 o'clock. Okay. So we have 2 new clocks. Excellent. Post game, do we need any new clocks? Do we need to add any ongoing forwards or new strings? We do need to add some forwards for those questions we asked earlier. I will do that in the post game. I'll do that after we hang up. Okay, this was fantastic.
Indeed, good game, y'all. We crashed on a planet.
Yeah, I was a little
There's
worried
birds.
about the pacing for a while there, but it ended up working out perfectly. All right, great. Well, I will talk to you guys next time, and this was very fun. I'm very excited to keep going.
All
Yeah,
right.
good game. You left us all in suspense. So
I know.
great story.
Okay.
Good shit.
Goodbye,
Yeah,
my
it definitely
friends.
reminded me a lot of the season 1 Gundam game.
All right.
All right, y'all. See
All
you.
right.